This week has one of the best Torah portions as far as storytelling goes. Parshat Balak has a king who wants to destroy Israel, a prophet with a talking donkey, and intended curses that turn into blessings. Balak, king of Moab, felt threatened by the Israelites, so he asked Balaam the prophet to curse them. God came to Balaam and told him not to curse the Israelites because they are blessed. So Balaam turned Balak down, but Balak asked again. And again God came to Balaam, but this time God told him, "If they invite you, you can go, but do everything that I command you to do." So Balaam went with Balak. And now we get to the part of the story that I really want to focus on with the talking donkey. Balaam is riding on his trusted donkey, a mare who had been his companion for a long time. Balaam thought God had given him permission to go, but God is furious. God sends a messenger as an adversary to Balaam. So as Balaam is journeying, riding on his trusted donkey, the donkey suddenly sees the messenger of God standing before them with a large sword pointed right at Balaam. Looking to save her master, the donkey swerves off the side of the road into the fields. However, Balaam couldn't see the angel. From his perspective, his trusted, dutiful donkey disobeyed his orders and ran them off the road. He was supposed to be a powerful prophet, and here he was, unable to control even a donkey. Embarrassed and enraged, he beats the donkey. They then continue on their journey. The messenger is not done yet. Again, the messenger appears before them in a narrow space between two fences. The donkey has to squeeze tight right up against the fence to avoid the terrifying angel, but in doing so, scrapes her master's leg against the fence. Embarrassed and enraged again, he beats the donkey a second time. A third time, the angel appears with a sword pointed directly at Balaam, this time in an even narrower passage, so narrow that the donkey has no way to pass through. Unable to find a safe way forward, the donkey of Balaam decides to just sit right in the middle of the road and not continue any further. Well, Balaam had just about had it, and he couldn't take it anymore. He gets up off the donkey and he beats the donkey a third time. And this is when God gave the donkey the gift of speech. The donkey says to him, "Why do you beat me? What have I done to you?" "You embarrassed me in front of all of these people," he says. "I would kill you if I could. Look, you've been riding me for years and years. Have I ever done anything like this to you before?" the donkey asks him. "No," Balaam answers. He hadn't thought about why the donkey might be causing him all of this trouble, just that she was. As he is thinking about it, considering what the donkey's perspective might be, suddenly it's as if a veil is lifted over his eyes, and he sees the angel, the adversary, standing right in front of them with a sword pointed directly at him. Balaam falls trembling to his knees. He bows with his face to the ground. And now the angel speaks. "You've beaten your trusted donkey 3 times when she was just saving you from me. I didn't know, Balaam says. I couldn't see you. I'll do whatever you want me to. Go to Balak, the angel answers, but only say what I tell you to. 3 times the donkey saw the adversary and swerved out of the way to save her master. 3 times he could only see the negative, falling off the road, scraping his leg, being stranded in place. 3 times he beat the donkey in anger and frustration because he could not see the sign of God. After Balaam joins Balak, we see the number 3 repeated again. 3 times Balak takes Balaam to curse the Israelites, and 3 times Balaam speaks blessings instead of curses. I love this story, not only because of the happy ending, but because of how far it feels from our reality. It's so exciting and fantastical, an angelic adversary sent to kill, and a talking donkey that saves the day. And the beautiful message that anticipated curses can become blessings. It's a feel-good story, but that doesn't always resonate with our day-to-day lives. Most of my days lately are so far from feel-good. This summer, I'm working as a chaplain in a hospital. I visit patients to talk to them about their feelings and their beliefs. How are they coping with their illness or injury? Who or what do they turn to for support? What is their relationship with God like? Do they believe in life after death? Some patients are unbothered by their stay in the hospital. They may have had an accident and anticipate full recovery. They may have an infection that they expect to clear up soon. Some have had chronic issues and they've dealt with it in the past. But there are also people in the hospital who are going through the worst experience of their life. As I was doing my rounds one day, I saw a woman sitting in a visitor's chair next to a sleeping man in the hospital bed. As I approached her, her face looked up at mine, and my heart twinged. Her face was scrunched up in anguish, her eyebrows pointed up toward the heavens, and upon seeing me, she still attempted a smile. I introduced myself as the chaplain, and I asked her, how was she doing? Upon getting the permission to let out her feelings like floodgates, she poured out her distress to me. Her husband spent more than half his nights in the hospital in the past 6 months. He had been on a transplant list for years. His body keeps shutting down. He finally got approved for a transplant, and then all of a sudden, he was taken off the list again. Every time it looked like he was going to get better, like things were going to improve, something happened that made him worse again. Just the week prior, he slipped into a coma because he wasn't receiving the proper medication. This woman's face and voice suggested anger, but tears flowed freely down her cheeks. I just don't understand why God would punish me like this, she said. Either he's cruel, or he's abandoned me, or he just simply does not exist. I keep asking God to send me a sign. She shook her head. I'm starting to think it's just a nice story to tell the children. I didn't really know what words to offer her, so I read her Psalm 13, which begins with the lament, "How long, O God, will you ignore me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" She was comforted by the ancient words which describe a feeling so many of us feel in times of hardship, that God has abandoned us completely. She thanked me for visiting her, and I continued on my day. The next day, I went back to the woman with the sick husband. This time, her eyes lit up when she saw me. "I was hoping you'd come back," she said. She told me she read Psalm 13 over and over and over again after our visit. She said she's still not sure if God exists and if God hears her prayers, but she was starting to think more about what it means to believe in God and yet not feel God with you. "I used to feel God so strongly," she told me. It was just like this comforting support that was always there, and I never questioned it. I raised my children with faith, and I know I'm not special. I know I'm not an unusual case. I'm not naive. I know I'm not the only person experiencing this kind of pain, but I just don't feel God anymore, and it scares me. Something I have known my entire life is gone, and I just keep asking God to please send me a sign, anything. Let him live or let him die, but this suffering is cruel. Take him, God, if you need to, but don't make him suffer like this. On the third day, the woman is still there with her husband. Her husband was actually starting to feel a little bit better. He was awake this time, and it was good to see him conscious. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversations," the woman told me. "I'm still not sure if I do believe in God, but I'm thinking about it. I can remember what it's like to be so sure about it. I really want to believe. But everything with my husband's health has really made me question. I know he's made some bad choices in his life, which has brought him here, but does he really deserve this? He's been such a kind person, such a loving father and husband. How can God allow such suffering? I keep asking God to send me a sign." And then she stopped suddenly, and something flashed in her eyes. It was as if a veil was lifted, and suddenly she could see, and she looked at me in an entirely different light. She grabbed hold of my hands tightly. "Maybe you are the sign I've been praying for." 3 times Balaam couldn't see the sign from God. 3 times I visited this woman in the hospital, and she lamented to me that God was not sending her a sign. She used to feel God so strongly, and then it was like radio silence. Even those of us most connected to God still have times where we feel existentially alone, where we wonder where God is and why has God abandoned us, where we may even feel like God has sent an adversary to punish us. But we never know where the sign of God might come from. It can come in the oddest times and the most unusual places, while traveling on a donkey, or even in a hospital amidst pain and suffering. Signs from God don't always take the shape of angels or talking donkeys. Sometimes they are a psalm or prayer that particularly pierces our hearts. Sometimes they are the one kind person who is with you in your time of need. Sometimes they are a rainbow or a firefly or the sweet sounds of birds singing. There can be signs all around us if only we open ourselves up to perceive them. We probably won't recognize the sign the first time encountering it. We may not even recognize it the second time. But the third time, if we are open to it, our vision can expand to see the holiness in front of us, kind of like staring at an optical illusion where as soon as your gaze softens, the image suddenly appears. What might we be missing? What signs and blessings could be directly before us if only we opened ourselves up to receive them? Our world is full of hardship. It can feel like the suffering and pain is never ending. It can be difficult to feel God in all of this despair. May we all open ourselves up to seeing the sign of God wherever it may appear. May we be open to receiving blessings when we might anticipate curses. May we in turn be the signs and blessings to others. Though this world is often bleak, let the divine spark within each and every one of us shine goodness onto others as a reminder that despite everything, there is light, there is hope, there is love.